Wednesday night satsang. Friday, May 19th in the sanctuary, the Unity 3 Tenors Concert. Join us for this special evening, which includes a Sips and Sweets reception, silent auction, live auction, and a magical concert with the Unity 3 Tenors, accompanied by our Unity Band. The Sips and Sweets reception starts at 7 p.m. in the sanctuary lobby. Love is the connection that keeps our friends and family close to our hearts, thoughts, and lives, even after they have passed. Reaching out to them across the veil provides the reassurance that they are still with us. Join Amy Hageman as she shares what she's learned from connecting with our loved ones on the other side. Amy will also be doing readings. Prosperity Consciousness. Do I see things as they are? Sunday at 9:45 in the Pyramid with Reverend Claudia Olmos. If you establish yourself with persistence in the consciousness of unity with the divine substance, you will begin to express this consciousness of abundance that will be demonstrated in your new reality. Join us in person or online. Sunday, May 21st, Bring Forth What Is Within You with Reverend Jean Marie Eck. Our emotional life is an important spiritual tool for understanding ourselves and our life's journey. We may find ourselves resisting or suppressing our emotions in a desire to be more spiritual or to feel more in control of our lives. However, once we begin to bring emotions forward and allow them to speak, we can work with them on another level. Exploring our emotions through a spiritual lens reveals a deeper meaning and greater possibilities for healing and emotional freedom. Wednesday, May 24th in the Pyramid at 7 p.m., Draw Upon Your Inner Resources, facilitated by Reverend Jean Marie Eck. As we continue our series on This Life is Yours, we will tap into our inner powers and release this greater wisdom into our lives. Namaste.
With prayer, so I invite you to just close your eyes if you're comfortable. Let out your breath, and then be aware of this next breath that you take into your lungs, into your body. This breath that indicates that you are in a safe space, that you are connected in mind, body, and spirit, that you are one whole being, able to focus, able to bring your awareness to your heart and into whatever space that you're inhabiting right now. And so we just allow ourselves to release anything that we're holding on to that is heavy or distracting, or that we no longer need, or that anything that we just don't need right here in this moment, so that we can be free, so that we can be clear, so that we can invite a pure sense of oneness, of presence, that in this space we know that all is one and all is well, and so it is. Amen.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Satsang. My name is Andy Grohl. I'll be your pilot for the evening. Welcoming Bruce Ross, Jamaica. I don't know your last name. Williams?
Gray.
What is it?
Gray.
Gray. Jamaica Gray. I did know that. Okay. So we don't have a drummer here, so I'm going to ask y'all to help us out. If you want to, you could stand up. You don't have to. Chris, we need some bass.
next to you. So I recognize the God in you.
I recognize the God in you.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me.
Lift your voice and repeat.
We come together.
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 In the name of love. We come together.
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 We come together. In the name of love.
From every walk of life, every creed and color, with hands and hearts unite, in honor of the God in each other. Take a look at the person next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you.
Namaste, I bow to you.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love. Use me, oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think that God was the Son. God is the Son. God so much more than the earth and the stars and all of creation. God is creator, all in all, needing us to shine His light as we, as you.
So
Use me, oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Command my hands, what must they do? Command my life, it's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new. God needs us to shine its light as we, as you.
So
Use me, oh God, I stand for you.
light. God needs us to shine His light as you. So use me. Oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Thank you. We're going to take it down now. Everybody take a deep breath in and let it out. This one is called The Breath of God. It's by Ricky Byers also. The words are on the screen, but you won't need them after like one verse. It's pretty easy. The breath of God is breathing me and resting in the breath of God. I know that all is well. The breath of God is breathing me and resting in the breath of God. I know that all is well. The grace of God is gracing me and resting in the grace of God. I know that all is well. The grace of God is gracing me and resting in the grace of God. I know that all is well. The joy of God is joy in me and resting in the joy of God. I know that all is well. The joy of God is joy in me and resting in the joy of God. I know that all is well. The love of God is loving me and resting in the love of God. I know that all is well. The love of God is loving me and resting in the love of God. I know that all is well. The breath of God is breathing me and resting in the breath of God. I know that all is well. I know that all is well. I know that all is well.
Beautiful words to take into our time of spiritual practice and meditation. So I just invite you, wherever you're sitting, to arrange your body in a way that allows you to feel comfortable and supported. And let's take just a moment to connect with our breath, allowing ourselves to fully inhale and exhale. breath of God is indeed breathing each one of us. As we place our attention on our breath, we recognize and remember that every breath that we've ever taken since the time of our birth up until this moment, and every breath that follows, is freely given. It is the breath of God expressing as us. It is the grace of God breathing us, meaning that there's nothing we need to do to deserve this next breath. Nothing we need to do to earn it. Nothing we can do to become unworthy of it. It is simply ours. So just keep breathing into that realization, that knowing. And in recognizing that in the grace of God, we live and move and have our being, we know that it is in the joy of God, too, that is breathing us in this moment. So I invite you to call into your awareness someone or something that brings you joy. An activity, a relationship, whatever it is that you feel the joy in the presence of God. Feel that joy expanding out beyond your inner being, out into the world, out into the atmosphere, knowing that this joy of God is available to all of us. And so the grace of God, the joy of God, finally it is the love of God that is breathing us in this moment. This love that knows no conditions, that is not transactional, that loves for the sake of loving. This is the love that you are loved with. Can you open your heart to it? Can you open yourself up and rest in the knowing of your own wholeness, your own perfection, your own completeness? For this is how the divine sees us, and we are being invited to see ourselves this way. And so simply say to yourself, your inner voice, I love you. I love you just as you are. And so with this grace, with this joy, with this love of the divine, we can rest. We can rest in the knowing that the next step for us, the next thing to do, the next way of being is being revealed to us. And we just open ourselves up to it now. Allowing. And so we thank ourselves for this openness, for giving ourselves the opportunity to connect with the God of our being, with this God of grace, this God of love, this God of joy. When we're ready, we can bring our attention back into this point of space and time. And so it is.
I so appreciate this midweek refreshment of being able to be here with all of you, whether you're in person or online, just being able to release, reflect, integrate. And I'm so happy that approximately 1 month from today, Stacy Collins will be ordained a Unity Minister. So blessed with all that you do for us. And also grateful for Andy and Jamaica and Bruce bringing the music tonight. Yes. This is truly a thriving community where we have energy and vibrancy, and I just love being here. And I'm looking forward to Friday evening when we're having a party. We're having a concert party with wine and desserts and music, and you don't have to read a book or learn anything. You can just sit there. You can just hug people and chat and have some snacks and refreshments and some beverages and really just have fun and enjoy who we are with great music with our three tenors, Michael and Boris and Ken. So now is the time that we get to give back to this ministry so that we can continue to move this energy in the world and raise the vibration and serve our neighborhood and bring great programming and just be who we are in the world. So thank you for giving, whether text to give or on the website or in person, many options, and we appreciate everything you do with us as Unity of Houston. So let us hold our resources, our gifts, our skills, our talents, our money, all of it in our hearts, in our minds, and bless the offering with our prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. So it is.
Child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will be brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Someday, yeah, we'll get it together and we'll get it undone. Someday, when your head is much lighter. Someday, yeah, we'll walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. Someday, when the world is much brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will be brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna be easier. Ooh, child, things will be brighter. get it together and we'll get it all done. Someday when the head is much lighter. Someday, yeah, we'll walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. Someday when the world is much brighter. La 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 la. La 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 la. Ooh. La 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 la. La 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 la. Someday we'll get it together and we'll get it all done. Someday when the head is much lighter. Someday, yeah, we'll walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. Someday, when the world is much brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna be easier. Ooh, child, things will be brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna be easier. Child, things will be brighter right now, right now, right now. If you just wait and see what things are gonna be. Right now. If you just wait and see what things are gonna be. Right now. People, you're touching my soul now. Right now, you just wait and see how things are gonna be.
Thank you, Andy and Jamaica and Bruce. Let's clap for them again. That was awesome. That was so great. So great to be with you all in our beautiful Unity of Houston Pyramid. And for our friends online too, please just know that we feel you in this space and we're grateful that you're here. So tonight we begin a brand new series based on this book called This Life is Yours, Discover Your Power, Claim Your Wholeness, and Heal Your Life. This is by Linda Martella-Whitsett and her daughter, Alicia Whitsett. And some of you may remember Linda was here earlier this year for our Spiritual Education and Enrichment Week. She was our guest faculty. And she's written 2 other best-selling Unity books on prayer and on the 12 Powers. So this is her latest one that she co-wrote with her daughter. So we're excited to be sharing it with you. And I'm extra excited to be starting off the series because we start off this book with probably the biggest thing we can talk about, the biggest thing that we can even imagine. But before we get into it, and we are going to get into it, I would just like to say something to you, each one of you, about you, that is not my opinion, that I'm not saying to make you feel good about yourself, or because I like you, even though I do. But I'm going to say something to you that is an inevitable truth if we are to start with the premise of our first unity principle. And so our first unity principle is that there's one presence, one power in the universe, in our lives, God the good, omnipotence, right? And so if we are to entertain the possibility that this principle is true, if we are even open to it, whether we believe it with all our heart or we're kind of sitting on the edge like, yeah, maybe that's right, then what would inevitably follow from that truth is that we are included in that each one of us is also existing in the perfection of God because there's nothing outside of God. And so the thing that I'm going to say to you about yourself is something you've probably heard here in Unity if you've been here for a while, but I want you to really feel it. I want you to really take it in. You are perfect. You are whole. And you are complete. Now, if you have been here for a while, this isn't the first time you've heard this, right? But what I'm asking you tonight and as the days go on, maybe later even this week, is to consider, do I believe that? Ask yourself, do I believe it? And to what level do I believe it? Do I believe it's true in some parts of my life? Maybe here I'm pretty good, I'm pretty whole, but over here I'm a DIY project still going on, right? Do you believe it? And this isn't a question that's easily answered, and it varies at different points in our life. There was a time in my life when I could not have even entertained the possibility that this was true for me. Not even entertain the possibility. And then after I found unity, started doing some of our spiritual practices and being involved in our spiritual teachings, I began to think, well, you know what, maybe. Maybe I am perfect, whole, and complete. Is that possible? And then I thought, well, maybe, you know what, maybe I'll get there one day. Maybe other people are. And if I just do this, take this class, keep paying attention, keep meditating at the same time every day, keep doing this, then I will get there, right? That aspirational thinking that one day, if we tick all the right boxes, we will experience that. But the thing about wholeness, it is present right here, right now. Right here, right now for all of us. So when I was a kid growing up in Indiana with my two younger sisters, the winters are long in Indiana. So as soon as it's warm enough to sustain human life, the adults in our lives had one mantra: you should be outside playing. That's all we heard, right? And so we were growing up in the 1980s in rural-ish Indiana. We're not as sophisticated as the kids of today with what they play and what they do, right? We had a little more primitive games. One of our favorites was pretending to be the girls from Little House on the Prairie. Another one, I spent a whole summer believing that I could communicate with ants and teach them things. And don't worry, as part of my ministerial school training, I had to get a psych eval. I'm okay now. I no longer believe that I can teach ants anything, but I so wanted to. But this part is an opinion, my favorite game, the best game that we ever invented, was called hose soccer. And let me tell you a little bit about, Rev Shirley, you would have liked hose soccer, I know it. So what we did is we didn't have a soccer goal, but we had two trees, and the three of us would play. One person would be on defense, that would be the goalie, and the other two were on offense, and their job was to get the ball past the goalie. But the one difference in hose soccer is that the goalie had a defensive weapon. They had a water hose with the nozzle on it. And so as you got close to the goal, they would squirt you in the face, your feet, your body, whatever, to try to keep you from slipping past the goal. And let me tell you about hose soccer was fun. It was messy. There was a lot of falling down. There was a lot of laughing. And we had a great time with it. We got in trouble occasionally for turning the yard into a mud pit, but that's fine. But only one thing could really stop our fun in hose soccer, and it inevitably happened in every game, that the water would suddenly cut off. And the goalie would shout out, I can't get it, the water's not coming out, and we would call a truce. We were very civil in this. We would call a truce, and all three of us would go to the hose and find where the bend was, where the constriction was, where the knot was, where the tangle was. And after we did that, what do you know? The water was flowing again. Now, the source of the water had never diminished. The supply of the water was not any less when that moment when the water wouldn't come out of the nozzle than it was before. It was a temporary condition that it had a tangle in it, a bend in it, a constriction in it. And so when we think about our lives, they have tangles in them sometimes, don't they? They have some constrictions, they have some bends, and it's how we be with those and what story we tell about those, how long we're willing to put up with them, that determine the quality of our life. And so, let me just see something here. I got a little sidetracked here. Sorry about that. So in the book, one of the things they talk about is the difference between healing and wholeness. Not that there's a difference, but one of the ways that we think about healing is it's often easy to think about it as steps that we need to take in order to become whole. You get that? Sometimes we think, okay, if I do this, this, and this, then I will become whole. And they make a distinction here that healing isn't about something we need to do in order to be whole. Rather, it is actions that we can take in order to claim the wholeness that we already are. So you see the difference there? And so they talk about the reason that we don't experience wholeness all the time or live in that realization of our wholeness is it has to do with some of our unexamined whys. So in the case of hose soccer, we didn't tell whole stories about why these tangles were here. Oh, these tangles are in here because of something we've done in the past, right? But sometimes when circumstances present themselves in our lives that are challenging, we tell stories about them, right? And sometimes we tell stories about why we don't deserve something good that we want. Or sometimes we tell stories that blame ourselves for a circumstance that has shown up. And we get stuck and knotted in these tangles and these constrictions, and it prevents us from experiencing our own wholeness. And so there are lots of reasons that we tell ourselves things are happening, right? And one of the things that they talk about in the book that I found fascinating is that, in Unity, we talk about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is that we create our own experience, right? We create our own experience of life. And so the difference is, though, sometimes we think, okay, we create how we experience our life. And we take that to mean that we create all the circumstances that show up, right? That's simply not true. That's not how it works. They say here in the book that the law of attraction states that we are the creators of our own experience and our own reality. But this is often misinterpreted to mean that we create our own circumstances. That would mean that we would create disease and heartbreak and devastating events. And that this all too familiar explanation arises from a prevailing religious belief about a God who would hurt us in order to teach us because he loves, or he or she loves us. So just take that in for a minute. That when you tell yourself a story about the circumstances that show up in your life, that you deserve them somehow, right? Or that you have brought this upon yourself, the longer that you stay in that, the longer it takes you to become free of it. And when you're in it and you're believing that in this, the whole idea of how you interpret your relationship with the divine is what undergirds this. So we have to ask ourselves, when we're in that moment of blaming ourselves or being the victim, or blaming someone else, what are we believing about God itself? What are we believing about our relationship with God? Are we believing that there is only one presence, one power that is perfect and that we exist in it? Or are we believing that there's something that we can do to take us outside of that? That there's something that we can do for some reason we are no longer deserving of that? And when we get down into those whys, and realize that that's where we're coming from, we can make the switch. We can say, okay, I see what my belief is. That's what this tangle's about. It's just a error thinking. It's just a belief that I've had, that maybe I've had for a while now. And maybe it keeps showing up, right? And so we can begin to untangle those and one of the steps too is to not make it so personal. Right? Because we all have circumstances that present themselves to us, and we can make it a story. You and I can have the same thing show up in our life. And if you tell a story about, okay, this happened, I'm going to get on with it, and you're okay. If I tell the same story to myself and I say, oh, this is proof that I'm never going to be good enough. Oh, this is proof that, you know what? I'm just not that likable. Whatever it is that shows up, it's usually some kind of insufficiency in some area. It's a universal human idea is that we're not quite enough. And so it's not a question of whether you are whole, perfect, and complete, because you already are. And so when we realize that, if we start from that premise, if we start from the idea that we are precious, that we are beloved, that we are loved in a non-transactional, in an irrational almost way, right? There's nothing that we can do to get ourselves outside of the love of the divine. Then we begin to treat ourselves in a way that we would treat someone who is lovable. And so this is when our behaviors begin to change. Our actions begin to change. This is when we begin to be able to nurture ourselves. We begin to say, what activities allow me to feel an expansive sense of freedom? What people do I surround myself with that meet me where I'm at and cheer me on? What spiritual teachings or messages support me in the next step of my unfoldment? But if we can't start with the premise or even be open to the possibility that we are deserving of that, then we will block ourselves from it. We won't be able to see it. So we've got to start with at least being willing to accept that we are whole, perfect, and complete. So the idea is, with the healing piece, is that it's not about adding anything on, right? It's about taking those steps and those behaviors that will help us experience our wholeness, help us realize it a little more. It's already there. It's already there. And oftentimes what's in the way of it is actually things that we need to release, things that we need to get rid of. So it's not an addition process, it's more of a subtractive process. One of the parables that I love from the Christian scriptures is about the kingdom of heaven. I love the ones where Jesus compares things to the kingdom of heaven. This one comes from Matthew, and it says this, that the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant who was in search of fine pearls, and when finding one of great value, he went away, he sold everything he had, and he bought it. So what does this mean for us in terms of our wholeness? Charles Fillmore talks about in the Revealing Word that the metaphysical meaning of that pearl of great value is the truth that we cannot afford to barter away. So the truth of our own wholeness is something that we cannot afford to trade for anything less than that. Because every time we do, well, we can do it, and we'll experience some constriction and some contraction. But when we remember it, and whatever it is that we are trading for this idea of our own wholeness, when we release that, we come into a greater realization of it. So I realized my own pearl of great truth in a very simple way, and that is that God is, I am, and that nothing exists outside the perfection of God. So if that includes me, that includes you, it includes everyone, right? And so when I began this ministerial school journey, as Rev Shirley just said, in 5 weeks and some change, I'll be graduating, I really thought that, okay, ministerial school is going to be about adding some competencies and skills and learning things. And I did learn a lot in there. I did learn a lot in school. And I'm grateful for everything I learned. But my greatest gift that I received in the whole of school process is realizing that all of the things that were getting in my way of knowing my own wholeness, all of the things that I think that I needed in order to be fulfilled, to live a fulfilling life, all of those kinks in the hose, all of those bends, all those constrictions, I learned to untangle some knots. And I've still got plenty of knots to untangle, and all of us will. It's not about making those wrong. It's a continuous exploration and discovering of, where am I tangled up here? Where am I constricting my flow? And so, but I'm not really on the other side of ministerial school, almost on the other side, maybe I shouldn't. I'm not a holier person than when I started, right? I'm not even a more spiritual person than when I started ministerial school, because I was already whole, perfect, and complete, as you are, right here, right now. And so I learned too that as a future minister, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as just a human being in this world, that I don't have anything to give anyone that you don't already have yourself. But what I can support you in, and what spiritual community can do, is we can support each other in selling anything, releasing all the stuff that's getting in the way of you discovering your own pearl of great truth, the truth that you are whole, right? Anything that's getting in the way of you realizing that, we can support each other in releasing that. We can support each other from getting those knots out of the hose, right? The poet T.S. Eliot said this, that we will never stop exploring. So we're never going to stop growing. We're never going to stop finding these limiting beliefs that we're holding. We're never going to. But at the end of all our exploration, we'll to be arrived where we very first started, and to know it for the first time. So we're coming home to ourselves. We're coming home to the truth of who we are. And so, my friends, maybe you be willing to accept your own perfection. May you show yourself compassion in all circumstances. And if and when you are unable to do so, may you remember that you can never be outside of the love of the divine. Thank you. Namaste. Rep Shirley's got to rearrange furniture.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Knowing that the topic for tonight was healing and wholeness, and I started reading the book, and as synchronicity of the universe will do, I turned on a podcast today. It's a Living Myth with Michael Mead, and he was talking about healing and wholeness.
Oh, nice.
And it was just an episode that just happened to come up. But one thing that he said that was really intriguing for me is that the awareness of wholeness comes through the wound. It comes through the pain. And it's kind of like you were talking about with the hose, with the kinks in it.
Yeah.
You've got to go to that spot. Like, you'd have to go to the wounded spot. You've got to go to the painful spot. And going through that is where we get that realization and that awareness, because we can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Right? We have to go to that kinked up spot.
No.
The tangled spot. We got to go to the knot
Yeah.
and deal with it there in order to be fully realized.
I love that. Yeah, because I think sometimes it does get confusing about, and particularly a new thought, that if there's a circumstance that we don't love in our life, we think, well, what was in my consciousness, that created this, or maybe I just kind of ignore it and put a positive spin in it. Isn't life meant to be good, so this isn't happening, all that. But if we have to be, there's a necessity of bravery, really, and vulnerability to go to those places and say, okay, if I believe that there is this within me that can never be harmed, can never be touched, is always whole, perfect, and complete, then I can go into those spaces, and I can go into those bends and those crinkles and those tangles and see them for what they are, and then they can be released, right? But if we ignore them, they just keep getting more and more tangled up. Yeah.
The water doesn't flow.
The water doesn't know.
Yeah, and it's also the concept of the wounded healer, which is a polarity, and Reverend Michael is talking about polarities on Sundays for this month, and that is a polarity of being both wounded and being a healer. And there's the concept that it's only through being wounded, like being human means being human, being wounded. being human involves some being wounded sometimes. And I think that's really the growth opportunity, like you said, instead of bypassing that, we include all of it, right? Yeah. We include everything in the human condition, the pain, the suffering, all the range of human emotions that we can all feel, that we all do feel, and putting our arms around all of it to claim our wholeness.
Yeah, because it's there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to be the best versions of ourselves. That's not what this is about, and wanting to take the